Today we have Isla McIntosh from the Poverty Alliance. The Poverty Alliance is Scotland's anti-poverty network, and they kind of bring together campaigners and communities to rebalance the distribution of power and resources. And Isla is going to take you through a little bit about Scotland Demands Better, and that kind of next steps. What can we do in 2026? Um, I'll hand over to you, Isla.
Thanks so much, Olivia, and thanks for having us along today. I'm saying us because, as you all might have noticed, it was actually my colleague Lydia Murphy who was originally billed to come and speak to you all today. And Annie was filling in for her, and Annie's taken on well today. However, rumours that this speaking engagement is jinxed are entirely unfounded. Here we are, cracking on, and I'm just going to try and share my slides in a way that means you can all see them. But in any case, yeah, we were really keen to come along today and really, really pleased to get the chance to share some of our reflections and our learning from the Scotland Demands Better campaign, which hopefully, I know certainly some of you were quite involved in. Hopefully, most of you had heard of it in any case, from sort of all the way through to October last year, which was the kind of coalescent moment of coalescence in a kind of huge march and rally in Edinburgh, which we were really aiming to use to reinvigorate the anti-poverty movement in Scotland. So, as Olivia said, Poverty Alliance, we are Scotland's anti-poverty network of civil society organisations, big and small, working across the country to prevent and reduce poverty. And what we are all united by is a shared belief that we should all have enough to live on, free from the injustice of poverty. And we know that poverty is a political choice. It is very much not the fault of the individual, and that these messages can be really transformational, both on the individual level, but most especially at the political level and at the level that we need to see change. It was, I think, Brian Stevenson, who is an American social justice activist, who said that the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. And that's very much a philosophy that we subscribe to at Poverty Alliance. So over recent years, speaking to our members at members' meetings, we could see that people were exhausted following COVID, following the unrelenting cost of living crisis, trying to keep momentum going, trying to keep going against all odds, trying to keep projects afloat, keep the funding coming in, and keep the impactful. What would it take for people to get out on the streets against poverty and inequality? Was our kind of starting point here. So sort of a year before October the 25th, we brought together this new coalition of organisations who were feeling very much the same, that we needed to do something differently from the ways that we've been engaging with trying to pursue change. So we had colleagues who are experienced in organising marches and events, like we had many from the trade union movement, climate activists, anti-racism groups. We had lots of others who are very active in the anti-poverty movement, or community leaders like disability activists, student activists, unpaid carers, minority communities, faith groups, researchers, universities, those who are tackling food insecurity, social change organisations with huge experience in galvanising an audience and in working with communities to deliver change. Can I have the next slide, please, Olivia? There we go. Thank you. So we worked together to develop these three key demands, which were aiming to be kind of broad enough that they could apply to and get the mass mobilization behind them, but also to be personalizable by different organizations, groups, and individuals. So we we boiled our kind of core demands down to better jobs for everyone who needs one, fair conditions and wages that pay the bills, better investment in life's essentials like affordable homes, good public transport, a thriving natural environment, and strong public services, and demanding better social security so that all of us have the foundation that we need for the future. Um, and so these demands would all improve lives for everyone and would align with the groups that are involved in the campaign, whilst also having scope to apply to the more specific asks that people in their local areas and in their organisations and communities that are their priorities. So we had public engagement events across Scotland. We were rallying organisations to sign up and support the campaign. We had hundreds and hundreds of civil society and third sector organisations signing up, as well as individual supporters as well from across Scotland. Um, and lots of people used Scotland Demands Better for their own campaigning. So we had some brilliant campaigns around carers demand better, lecturers demand better, and Dunoon demands better from, right across the country. Um, and I think one of the kind of key shifts that the campaign was looking to achieve is kind of nicely encapsulated by another quote here from Frederick Douglass, who's an American abolitionist. And he said, "Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did, and it never will." So it's about stopping asking and starting to demand the change that we need. Because that kind of language is important and it does cause a shift. So we wanted that language to bring energy back to the anti-poverty movement, to get us all to sort of stop being so polite and playing by the rules. And it's framing it as a demanding better of our politicians because poverty is a political choice. And although we have had very welcome focus and commitment to tackling child poverty in Scotland, the progress in people's real lives is not where it should be at this point, as we're all very familiar with. And there were lots of points where we didn't know if we'd be able to pull this off. We were really hoping to get a mass mobilisation going behind this campaign. But as we kind of got closer and closer to the 25th of October, was sort of like pre-party nerves. You've invited lots of people. Is anyone going to show up to your party? And we'd never done anything like this before. We'd never sort of been spearheading such a broad coalition before, and trying to mobilise people from across Scotland in this way. But we were full of hope from all the conversations we were having and all of the activity we were seeing from everyone that was getting involved. And us and many of the other coalition partners, we've had lots of FaceTime with politicians. We've written lots of briefings. We've had receptions at parliaments. We've attended roundtables and cross-party groups and given kind of recommendations and asks. But that political access doesn't always lead to influence, as we can see at the national and local level. So we also were hoping that this would achieve a culture shift within our own movement, a shift in those relationships and in that approach towards, we're done asking now. We're telling you what needs to happen for people to be lifted out of poverty because it is possible and it'll take bravery and it'll take being bold. And we did have politicians who were engaged and wanting to support the campaign, but it was important for us to be clear that we weren't inviting them to come along and speak. It wasn't a platform for our politicians. It was a listening opportunity. So we had lots of support in that sense from particularly a lot of local level politicians to come along and listen and engage, and some of the national party leaders as well. But can I have the next slide, please, Olivia? Yeah, those were just some of the kind of motivating goals of the movement. I think maybe next slide again. Yep. So we've had, in reflecting on the learning, we are really pleased that this did come across, people saying, so it became clear that demands of Scotland Demands Better are not just the demands of one group or another, but they're shared hopes for a fairer society. And that was, I think, maybe we've got a Min colleague here on the call today. That was Dahlia from Maryhill Integration Network. Shared that reflection with us. And we know that change doesn't happen with one voice. So we brought, there were dozens and dozens of organisations who may not agree with each other on everything. They may not have the same aims and objectives or strategy documents, but they are aligned behind those broad asks and that broad message of we can. we can tackle poverty, we can do better, and we can demand better. So, you know, it's about putting kind of ego to the side and understanding that this was bigger, this is more important, and being, you know, forming that kind of unstoppable push for change, being united against poverty and injustice on the same side. So it's yeah, it's about that alignment, not agreeing on everything, but being aligned, and that kind of relational way of working. Um, and so it was really important for us to create a moment of positivity and hope as part of the campaign. And I think could we have the next slide, please? So yeah, on the 25th of October, that it really did feel like it was a march for all of us. We had more than 5,000 people there, from a real diversity of organizations, communities, diversity of voices, you know, all coming together against poverty. Um, and we had also a lot of groups who were bringing, you know, signs and flags that other members of their community had made who weren't able to be there in person, but who were kind of physically represented through, um, you know, the messages and artwork and really creative ways of being heard that were mobilizing across the country to come together on that day. I think next slide. Yeah, so that was one of our colleagues from the STAR project in Paisley, Heather Kay, said that one of the most powerful aspects was how it enabled us to mobilise alongside our community rather than on behalf of them. So yeah, we really saw that you know, grassroots community engagement and activism, you know, joining forces with, you know, all of the big NGOs. You know, we had Church of Scotland um, the work that we were doing. We had, you know, big and small community groups and organisations side by side, really singing from the same sheet. And it was a moment. It was a powerful moment bringing all those people together. I think there's another slide there, maybe, Olivia. Yeah. So yeah, just such a diversity of, you know, loads of families and loads of kids out marching as well. It was really great to see. Um, and I think, no, sorry, we'll stay on that slide for now. Yeah, that kind of physical presence together was such a powerful kind of energizer. I think one of our board members, Emma Jackson, described it as, I think there's a psychological term for it. It's collective effervescence. When we've all been kind of starved of this sense of connection and unity, and when you're all there together, it really was that kind of festive, festival atmosphere of energizing each other and kind of giving each other hope for the future and for the future of a movement. And I think maybe next slide. Yeah, so yeah, showing that we do have the right to make these demands together as a sector and as communities. For that momentum really needing to carry on into the elections, into delivering real change, into politics and politicians needing to listen and respond and involve people in shaping those policies and shaping those changes, because and that kind of recognition that poverty is political, it's not inevitable. Modern life, and that fair funding is political, and that our human rights are political, and that the climate emergency is political. All of the things that
I think we're just having a little bit technical difficulty there. I think Isla has frozen a little bit. We'll just give it a few seconds and hopefully we'll be able to reconnect with Isla.
No problem. Thanks for your patience there. But yeah, so I think I was just saying that you know, the movement was really about yeah, you know, convincing each other that it's okay for us to be political about the things that we are campaigning on and that we are working on, and to yeah, to take these types of actions to speak out demand better and demand a new approach. And so where did we get to on the slides? Yeah, it was that kind of galvanizing moment. And looking at the human rights failures that that poverty is really underpinning. Looking ahead a little bit to kind of what happens next. Could you skip to the next slide, please, Olivia? Yeah. So and then maybe the next one. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. So I think that's Dale from the Courtyard Pantry said on the bus ride home, I felt hopeful. I'd seen the best in humanity and realized this was the kind of country I wanted to live in. So it's really about demonstrating that.
Trying not to jinx it, because I feel like the second I say that there's a little bit of technical difficulty, Isla's camera works better again. Thank you for bearing with us, everyone. I think it just seems to be one of those days. It's a little bit cursed. The technology does not want us to get through this webinar.
I'll just kind of quickly jump ahead to the kind of what's been happening since and what's next side of things, because yes, I'm hoping a lot of you were part of the campaign, or were there on the day, or been interested following it since then. We really do want to build on the momentum as much as we can from that campaign and from the amazing, turnout and collective action that it all enabled. So we were pleased to see, for example, in the budget that the 2-child limit, promises to for that to be scrapped at the UK level. Obviously not as quickly as we might have liked. Could you skip ahead, Olivia? Mm-hmm. And again? Yep. Thank you. So, ending the 2-child limit was one of the things that Poverty Alliance and loads of our allies in Scotland Demands Better have been campaigning on for a really long time. But what we want to see is, that's been mitigated at the Scottish level. So we want to see that funding ring fenced to increase the Scottish child payment to, for example, £55 a week. We know that it's, not kind of resting on our laurels and policy makers to account for, realign funds. We've seen a lot of organisations being able to use Scotland Demands Better in their own kind of manifestos and campaignings as we come into the election, and also to influence local decision makers and MPs even as well on different issues. So we want to I'd be really interested to hear what anyone in the room is doing as well around engaging with politicians on demands around ending poverty. We've been inviting our politicians to listen, and it's now kind of a test of, have they been listening? What have they been hearing? Were they listening close enough to get our votes amongst our communities? What changes are we going to see coming into the next Parliament and Scottish Government? Our own manifesto, it's focused in on the minimum income guarantee, which is another campaign that we're very focused on at the moment. The asks within Scotland Demands Better actually do make up the kind of building blocks of the minimum income. Health, housing, social care, education, childcare are a crucial part of a minimum income guarantee, as is alongside social security. So we've been working hard on a roadmap with lots of other partners around a minimum income guarantee, and that's what our manifesto has been focused on in the last month or so. We're really keen to hear so Poverty Alliance members manifestos. We'll be sharing as many of those as we can on our website as well, and kind of just amplifying each other's demands. I think that's a really key part of campaigning at this stage. We're going to have a Scotland Demands Better hustings that we're organising. I think the details are TBC. Oh no, it's actually I've now confirmed the 31st of March in Glasgow City Chambers. So we're going to be that's a little advanced notice for you all. There we're going to be sending out details of how people can register for that. Amongst our Poverty Alliance members and Scotland Demands Better supporters. That's going to be coming out to those guys this week, later this week. Yeah, we particularly feel that it's such an important time to be unifying as much as possible with each other. There's so much divisive politics at the moment, and I think that was why Scotland Demands Better was such a powerful moment to show that unity and to feel that unity really, really tangibly. So before I get disconnected again and I want to leave time for some discussion, I'd really love to hear, what are you guys demanding as we come into the elections? Who are your allies? Who are you aligning with? And what can we do to support one another's voices and demands at this time? Because I think that unity is really the most important thing.